Mirage 2000 fighter jets in Ukraine, which will allow Ukraine to protect its land and airspace. Ukraine is preparing a direct challenge to Russian air superiority. Ukraine aims to seize air superiority in the face of continued Russian aggression. The Mirage 2000 fighter jets are vital as Ukraine continues to face Russian air attacks. The deployment of French Mirage 2000 fighter jets to Ukraine marks a crucial moment in the ongoing conflict with Russia. The move marks a significant increase in Western military support for Ukraine and has far-reaching geopolitical, geostrategic, military, and psychological implications for both Ukraine and Russia. Here are the details of the news. Ukraine has received its first French Mirage 2000 fighter jets as Russia continues its offensive. We can say that these jets will significantly increase Ukraine's air combat capabilities. In the third year of Russia's all-out attacks and invasion attempt against Ukraine, the allied country France, which has taken action once again, has provided great support to Kyiv. Emmanuel Macron announced the delivery of French Mirage 2000 fighter jets to Ukraine. Took its soil, its airspace, and so, as of tomorrow, we're going to launch a pilot training program. Macron stated that he did not want tensions to escalate and emphasized that peace can only be achieved if Ukraine can defend itself. The French leader said the planes would help protect Ukraine's skies with Ukrainian pilots who had spent months training in France. France has sent Mirage 2000 fighter jets to Ukraine, and the partner country has also trained Ukrainian pilots. As you may recall, in addition to the jets, France had also committed to train Ukrainian pilots. This training has been completed and will improve the skill level of Ukrainian pilots and make them more effective in combat. In this way, we can say that with the integration of advanced training and advanced technology, Ukraine aims to achieve better overall performance and combat effectiveness. According to Macron, the move is part of a broader strategy to strengthen Ukraine's military capabilities without directly escalating the conflict. The Mirage 2000 is a fourth-generation French multi-role single-engine fighter produced by Dassault Aviation. It was developed in the late 1970s as a light fighter for the French Air Force. It was later developed into the Mirage 2000N and 2000D strike variants, the improved Mirage 2005, and several export variants. More than 600 aircraft have been produced in service in 9 countries. We can say that Mirage 2000 jets will significantly increase Ukraine's air combat capabilities. This is because these jets are equipped with advanced avionics and weapons, including Scalp, e.g. Storm Shadow cruise missiles that can accurately hit high-value targets. This has the potential to shift the balance of air superiority in Ukraine's favor by increasing Ukraine's ability to effectively conduct air operations against Russian forces at the same time with the addition of Mirage 2000 jets. Ukraine will be better able to defend its airspace against Russian air attacks. With the jets, Ukraine will be able to intercept Russian aircraft and provide close air support to ground troops. This will improve the overall defense posture of the Ukrainian army. Moreover, Mirage 2000 jets provide Ukraine with greater operational flexibility. These multi-role fighters can perform a variety of missions, including air-to-air combat, ground attack, and reconnaissance. This versatility will increase the Ukrainian military's ability to adapt to different war scenarios and respond effectively to Russian tactics. Moreover, the arrival of advanced fighter jets such as the Mirage 2000 will significantly boost the morale of Ukrainian forces. The announcement and subsequent deployment of Mirage 2000 jets has already had a demoralizing effect on Russian troops. Knowing that Ukraine is receiving advanced military support from its NATO allies has shaken the confidence and morale of Russian troops. After all, this aspect of psychological warfare is as effective as physical combat capabilities. This support symbolizes international solidarity and is tangible proof that Ukraine is not alone in its struggle. The psychological impact of such high-profile military assistance is considerable, as it strengthens the resolve and resilience of Ukrainian soldiers. In addition to the jets, France has also committed to train Ukrainian pilots. This training will improve the skill level of Ukrainian pilots and make them more effective in combat. Russia will also have to reassess its military strategy in the face of Ukraine's advanced air capabilities. Macron's move reflects broader NATO support for Ukraine. It also signals a deepening commitment by Western allies to help Ukraine in its fight against Russian aggression. The presence of advanced Western fighter jets in Ukraine shows that NATO is willing to provide significant military assistance that could deter further Russian escalation. The deployment of French Mirage 2000 fighter jets to Ukraine marks a crucial moment in the ongoing conflict with Russia. The delivery of these jets represents a critical stage in Ukraine's defense strategy and underscores NATO's continued commitment to support Kyiv in its fight against Russian aggression. With additional aircraft, advanced weapons, and extensive training programs, Ukraine's air defense forces will significantly increase their effectiveness on the battlefield in 2025. All in all, it is clear that Ukraine will make a major contribution to its air combat capabilities. Moreover, according to some U.S. officials, the Russian Air Force is suffering significant losses in the Ukrainian war. Although Russia initially aimed for a quick victory, the protracted fighting has resulted in the loss of many aircraft, including modern Su-30, Su-34, and Su-35 fighter jets. Ukraine's attacks on Russian airfields, combined with the aging of the Russian fleet and limited production capacity, are creating an unsustainable situation for the Russian Air Force. The arrival of the F-16s in Ukraine exacerbates Russia's difficulties and shows that the war of attrition in the air is being lost. The VKS is draining faster than it can make up for the losses. As you know, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has not gone well for Russian President Vladimir Putin. The initial attack was reportedly made on the assumption that Ukraine would be taken within a week. And now, after 3 years of war, only 20% of Ukraine is in Russian hands. Russian losses in personnel, tanks, and equipment have been enormous. But U.S. officials disagree about the state of Russia's Air Force. General Christopher G. Cavalier, Supreme Allied Commander of U.S. European Command and NATO's Supreme Allied Commander, told a hearing of the House Armed Services Committee that Russia has lost only 10% of its air force. Ukraine has claimed that Russia has shot down 347 airplanes and 325 helicopters since its invasion in February 2022. This includes losses incurred in the conflict over Ukraine and hypothetical losses due to an aircraft accumulating more flight hours than planned, reducing its overall lifespan. According to the report, the Russian Air Force had lost 16 aircraft in the conflict over the past 8 months. However, the Russian Air Force is expected to lose about 60 aircraft this year due to overuse and the age of their airframes. Meanwhile, the VKS currently supplies only about 20 Su-30, Su-34, and Su-35 aircraft per year. Just over half of the Russian aircraft used in Ukraine are over 30 years old, and the airframes have very few flight hours. Unlike the manpower war, the Russians are losing this war of attrition. While aging aircraft are being held in reserve to extend the life of their airframes, most of the Russian Air Force fighters operating over Ukraine that are being lost are new Su-30s, Su-34s, and Su-35s. There are also reports of occasional sightings of Su-25s. Moreover, the point is that the Russian RAF can no longer afford this kind of loss because it will not be able to replace the lost aircraft. On the other hand, Starmer says that Britain will provide more military aid to Ukraine this year than ever before. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on February 3rd that the UK will provide more military support to Ukraine in 2025 than ever before. The UK had previously announced plans to provide Ukraine with unprecedented military aid this year, pledging $3 billion or $3.6 billion in lethal aid. We must do everything we can to support Ukraine's defense. Starmer told a joint press conference with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Brussels. This means stabilizing the front line, providing them with the equipment and training they need, and that is why the UK will provide more military support to Ukraine this year than ever before. Starmer's comments come weeks after Britain and Ukraine signed a historic 100-year partnership agreement in Kyiv. The wide-ranging agreement covers cooperation in the military, energy, scientific, cultural, economic, and other sectors. At the press conference, Starmer described the devastating effects of Russia's large-scale war that he encountered during his recent visit to Kyiv and said that just a few days ago, he saw houses being destroyed. I met soldiers in the intensive care unit who are recovering from really horrific burns, and I met children whose parents are now on the front line. And this is another reminder that this is a war not just in Ukraine, but in Ukraine against those children and their future, the British Prime Minister said. Starmer said it is essential that Ukraine's allies, especially its European partners, take action to help Kyiv meet its defense needs. He also mentioned U.S. President Donald Trump's recent threat of sanctions against Russia. It is clear that this has shaken Russian President Vladimir Putin, Starmer said. We know that he is concerned about the state of the Russian economy. So he is taking pains to keep up the pressure with his European partners, targeting energy revenues and companies that supply missile factories to crush Putin's war machine. Britain and other European countries have pledged to play a greater role in Ukraine's defense against Russia during the transition period in the U.S. government. Trump has already limited U.S. foreign aid to Ukraine and other countries, and the future of ongoing arms shipments from Washington to Kyiv is unclear. Starmer promised that the UK would play a full role in peacekeeping efforts in Ukraine, including the deployment of British troops to monitor the ceasefire on the ground. At the same time, Sweden announced a record military aid package to Ukraine. The latest military aid, worth more than $1 billion, aims to strengthen Ukraine's defenses against Russian aggression. On January 30th, 2025, Sweden announced the largest military aid package to Ukraine since the beginning of Russia's all-out war, worth about $1.25 billion, or 13.5 billion Swedish kronor. This is Sweden's 18th installment of military assistance, bringing the total aid extended to Ukraine since February 2022 to about $5.6 billion. The latest package includes military assets such as 146 trucks, 16 combat boats, and Bandru 500 TOW anti-tank missiles, as well as key equipment including 200 anti-tank guns, naval combat modules, and protective equipment for soldiers against chemical and nuclear threats. Training initiatives for Ukrainian forces will also be funded, extended until 2025. In particular, this will include the UK LED Operation Interflex, which aims to provide basic training to Ukrainian troops and educational programs for Ukrainian school children through the Swedish Defense University. The Swedish Ministry of Defense stressed the importance of addressing Ukraine's specific needs. Sweden's military support to Ukraine is always based on Ukraine's needs and priorities. Ongoing bilateral communication and multilateral cooperation and capability coalitions provide this information. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov took to social media to express his appreciation for Sweden's decisive support, stressing the importance of the package. Sweden has announced a new record-breaking $1.2 billion military aid package. This is the largest aid package for Ukraine in the country's history. It includes critically needed resources for the front line. Umerov noted that under the Danish support model, an allocation of $178 million has been made to support Ukraine's arms production, with an allocation of $90 million specifically for the procurement of long-range missiles and drones. The Danish military aid model refers to initiatives in which philanthropic countries support the development of defense production capacities within Ukraine and showcases the successful cooperation initiated by Denmark, which has allocated approximately $680 million from assets frozen due to sanctions against Russia. This model has already supplied Ukraine with arms worth over €538 million through agreements already concluded for 2024. With $1.4 billion expected by 2025. Swedish Defense Minister Paul Johnson explained the importance of the aid, saying that Russia now holds the initiative in the war. Therefore, I believe that Europe must take more responsibility to support Ukraine. This assertive stance reflects Sweden's growing commitment to collective European efforts and shows that there are wider discussions among European countries about strengthening support for Ukraine during its conflict with Russia. The comprehensive aid package reflects not only military ambition, but also diplomatic solidarity as European countries assess their responsibilities in the midst of geopolitical turmoil. While the need for support is undeniable, preparations are being made for the future to meet Ukraine's defense needs as the conflict continues and external pressure from Russia remains intense. Last year, Sweden announced plans to invest 75 billion Swedish kronor, or $6.8 billion, in military assistance to Ukraine from 2024 to 2026. The recently announced 17th aid package, worth SEK for 4.6 billion or $401.6 million, shows the Swedish government's commitment to help within the global coalition supporting Ukraine. As the global focus on the Ukrainian situation has increased significantly in the wake of Russia's intervention, nations are increasing their commitments to provide military resources. And Sweden is clearly playing his role decisively through this massive aid announcement. The international community continues to watch closely as the dynamics of the war remain fluid and strategic support becomes more important than ever. Amidst all this, there have been reports of Russian armored vehicles being destroyed in the Inferno, with Putin losing 100 to 200 men in one day in the ongoing war. Ukraine shared images from the front line where the Russian tank was engulfed in flames. Russia claimed 1,240 casualties in just 24 hours in one of the most catastrophic periods of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Kyiv also announced that 18 Russian tanks, 133 vehicles and fuel tanks, and 44 artillery systems were destroyed in the blast. Ukrainian drones also destroyed air defense systems and ammunition depots. Ukraine shared footage of a Russian tank engulfed in flames as fighting continued on the front line. The video shows the Kremlin tank engulfed in a thick cloud of black smoke and fire. And as the soldiers tried to escape, a huge explosion tore the vehicle apart. Tanks, artillery systems, air defense systems, and ammunition depots became targets for Ukrainian drones. And now these targets have been destroyed, he shared. To summarize, the success of the Ukrainian military operation has put President Putin's armed forces under pressure. According to Zelensky's military, Putin's army has lost a total of 845,310 soldiers in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022. So, what do you think about this issue? We would be glad if you specify in the comments. Thank you for watching us. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and like to support us.